Hey, Levi. Of course it's Mark Zuckerberg. Hey, G-Rod. Hey, coming at you live. It's Mark Zuckerberg, your favorite pianist. Just kidding. Here to play all your greatest hits as the Facebook stock goes to zero because we decided to not AI as hard as everyone else AIing. We'd have thought our killer AI feature would be adding in the ability for me to share off your private conversations that you have with Meta AI. Isn't that a great feature, right? You make a creepy image generation prompt, we'll share it to people. We don't care. We're Meta. Something goofy? How about this? How about we do Rush F? Sure. We can do that. Oh, you like Smells Like Teen Spirit? We'll keep that up. Hannah? I always get a little scared when people say my name because I'm just assuming it's probably some joke I don't understand. Thank you, Hannah. It turns out that the skill set of designing a 2 billion person spying app and piano really overlap. I think, Levi, you like it when it's a little bit of a waltz, right? this out there. Here's my call to action. If you subscribe, I promise not to give your private messages to the government. That's what it is. No, sorry, Levi. It's already too late. You got to subscribe every single day, and then I don't know. Even then. Basically, a subscription means today you'll be safe from me leaking it. All right, hold on. We're gonna do Interstate Love Song because I want to do some singing. We're gonna do some singing. We're gonna do some playing. Who likes some Stone Temple Pilots in here? There you go. Waiting on a Sunday afternoon for what I read between the lines, your lies. Feeling like a hand in rusty chain. So do you laugh or does it cry? Reply. Hey Tam, we're just playing some grunge. It's grunge time. Sharon, bring in. How's it going? We can mess around with that. We can mess around with that. See, exactly. It was always that was the whole purpose of the we can mess around with that campaign. I'm just being silly. Actually know of music the 90s. I barely hear any of these songs ever played on TikTok. Maybe I should like try a one-man army to try to get this type of music back popular. Probably a failing idea, but whatever. Forward yesterday makes me wanna stay. What they said was real makes me wanna steal. Living under house, guess I'm living, I'm a mouse. All I've got is time, got no meaning, just a rhyme. Take time with a wounded hand, 'cause it likes to heal. Take time with a wounded hand, 'cause I like to steal. Take time with a wounded hand, 'cause it likes to heal. I like to steal. I'm half the man I used to be. I'm half the man I used to be. What's grunge exactly? Little music history lesson here. Grunge is a style of music that was predominantly popular during the 90s. And basically, in the United States, there was this massive movement both in pop and rock towards extreme production and like fireworks. Like all the music was super sophisticated, you know, tons of synth, tons of production quality, meaning like lots of work in the studio to make it sound really nice, and like tons of instruments, you know, just complexity basically. And everything was also very happy, mostly music-wise. And then there was people mostly from the northwest of the United States, so Seattle area, and they basically were a bunch of not very attractive looking dudes that were had kind of, you know, podunk sort of backgrounds, like mostly like middle class. And the 90s was kind of a weird era because in many ways it was quite prosperous, but certain areas of the economy were kind of impacted in a negative way. And so everyone was just kind of in a doldrum. And so grunge came along, and the whole idea was, I'm just gonna play a few chords and I'm just gonna sing, and I'm not even gonna learn how to sing really well. And I'm also not going to make the sound quality very good. I'm just going to sing from the heart and kind of have that raw authenticity. In many ways, Oliver Anthony is kind of a modern version of what grunge is, basically. If you're familiar with that guy, he just blew up recently on TikTok. And it's more country, but it's kind of that idea. And it was super, super influential. Nirvana's the biggest band, of course, in grunge, but there's Stone Temple Pilots, there's Alice in Chains, there's Pearl Jam, so many different groups from that time period. And then it kind of morphed into alt rock and then alternative and kind of new metal, where it basically started to become as sophisticated as everything else. and the only difference was the person was using more nonsensical words and a grungier delivery, right? It was more the vocal style and less the actual lyrical content and stylings, if you will. But like a song like this is kind of classic grunge, just really slow. Hey, Ken. No, the Doors is much earlier, although, you know, you can see some influence for sure in the delivery with that Doors style vocals. But that was a much earlier, but like the grunge guys 100%, they would have definitely known of and been influenced by, like David Bowie was a huge influence of a lot of grunge people. The Doors would definitely be a good influence. Kiddo's doing good. The baby's growing like crazy. He's sleeping right now, which is why I'm able to do this. I bet Ken knows about grunge. Feeling uninspired, think I'll start a fire. Everybody run, Bobby's got a gun. Think you're kind of neat, then she tells me I'm a creep. Friends don't mean a thing, guess I'll leave it up to me. Take time with a wounded hand, cause it likes to heal. Take time with a wounded hand, guess I like to steal. Take time with a wounded hand, cause it likes to heal. I like to steal, I'm half the man I used to be. I'm half the man I used to be. So this is a David Bowie song that Nirvana covered. I'm gonna pull up the lyrics because I haven't sung these in a while. I can't remember them. We passed upon the stair. Hey, Dante. David Bowie's best album? Oh man. Okay, after I play this, let's do a little album review. We'll go through all his albums, talk about them. In spoken walls and wind, although I wasn't there, he said I was his friend, which came as a surprise. I spoke into his eyes, I thought you died a long time ago. Who knows? Not me. We never lost control. Your face to face with the man who sold the world. think Nirvana ever ended it on major, but whatever. Okay, let's talk through some David Bowie albums. Let's turn you guys on to some stuff if you haven't. If you are not familiar with the Bowie, let's talk through some David Bowie albums. First of all, look at this. This is insane. Like, that is nuts. Granted, some of these are re-releases, of course, but like, that is an absolute insane level of albums. Who's my favorite artist? I don't know if I can give you one. I really like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the one. Okay. Let me just give you some highlights. I think The Man Who Sold the World is really good. If you had to just say, hey, you only get one David Bowie album and that's it, which I would cry about, I would say it's Hunky Dory. I know that's probably a pedestrian pick, but I'd say it's probably Hunky Dory. Heroes, of course, is amazing. Low is amazing. Young Americans is amazing. Diamond Dogs is amazing. Aladdin Sane. Aladdin Sane is super, I think, underrated. It's kind of experimental and kind of crazy, a lot of fun. And then, of course, Black Star at the end of his life, also amazing. Labyrinth, like that soundtrack is super awesome. Man, there's too many. Coldplay? Coldplay's great. Coldplay is totally great. Not my personal cup of tea, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. Yeah, isn't that cool? I always like that effect on piano, where you just have a sustained note. A hardest part. Is that the name of one of their songs? Oh, it is. So I do want to actually say something to Wind to Change, because you were talking about chromatic feeling out of place. I will give you this one little tidbit about that. Chromatic, here's the problem with chromaticism. By definition, when you're doing something chromatic, you're pulling it out of the key, which is the normal organizing way that we get our framing of music, basically. So music, the way that we generally understand music is in a harmonic chord progression scale key framework. What do I mean by that? So for example, in that Coldplay song, the reason why it's so effective is we're in the key of A flat major, but we never actually play A flat major. We're playing E flat major, which is the 5, then we're going to the 2, then we're doing the 2 again, and then the 6. And what that does is these chords have already an understanding, it's like using words from a language, right? We already know what they generally do. And then it's tickling our brain in the Coldplay sense because they're kind of arranged in an odd way. It's kind of I had a professor sometimes say these are a chord succession instead of a chord progression, meaning the chords are not actually going anywhere. They're just sort of floundering around where they're at. And that's not saying that Coldplay is doing something bad. It's just the feeling they're trying to go for. Okay, so why did I mention that with chromaticism? Well, chromaticism, when you start adding in other notes, basically we're kind of trying to understand them. Humans are amazing pattern recognizers. So if I say a word that's out of place, if in the middle of the sentence I say elephant, we don't just go, oh, he just said elephant, and then move on and think about other stuff. That's not how humans work. What we do is we go, why in the world did he say elephant? What was that about? And then we start to try to connect the dots. So what happens when you play a chromatic note is our brains start really grasping, going wait a second, what was that note about? And unless it's handled well by the composer or the improviser, that one note can throw off our entire framework of what harmony or what key we're in. So that's one of the reasons why it becomes so challenging to get really good sounding results. Because what tends to happen is people do these things, they get really dogmatic. In their head, they're like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'm in B flat major, and I'm gonna be playing, and then I'm gonna play an A flat, and it's all fine. Well, guess what? You're not in B flat major anymore. Our ears hear that, and now we're in B flat mixolydian, or we're in E flat major. Okay, am I saying that you can't be chromatic? No, what I'm saying is you have to have an idea of where these notes are trying to go, what conflict these notes are trying to create, a plan for these chromatic notes. So let's say, for example, I want that A flat in there. Maybe I've got a little bit of a waltz thing going. I hit a wrong note there at the end. But you get the idea. Basically, each of those notes served a purpose. So when I went to the A flat, I was using it as a secondary dominant chord to the 4 chord, the E flat. And then E flat minor, and then we go B flat. Now, that's like playing by the rules. You could do the opposite. I know you're saying no resolution because I hit a wrong note, but you could do the opposite on purpose. So maybe you actually want there to be no resolution. So maybe you go. So, well, yeah, and that's going to sound more like Chopin because it becomes this game, and it's actually interesting. I've heard people propose this theory that Chopin was really jazz, although if that's reversing causality, right? That's a anachronism because ultimately jazz is Chopin, and it really comes from this game effectively you're playing. How long can I go denying resolution so then I can finally resolve? You know, think of it like telling a story. Soviet World War II song, Dark is the Night. It sounds kind of jazzy for a wartime song. I think I have heard that once. Let me play this, The Hardest Part song that was requested a while ago by Felipe. In a very Coldplay-in way, you know, that's how Coldplay ends every single one of their songs. No, okay. Here's another way to think about the whole harmony thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep experimenting with titles and video ideas until my lives start kicking back up in high gear again. I know I haven't been consistent enough. Thanks, Felipe. Um, so, what I will say about harmony and chromaticism is I think you actually maybe should start out trying to understand diatonic dissonance first. What do I mean by that? Pick your favorite accompaniment. If you can accompany yourself because you play guitar or piano, go for it. If you can't, then turn on like a chord progression, a looping chord progression. Like you can either use a DAW or just YouTube, just look up a simple, easy chord progression. And then play with the dissonance in the scale. So for example, in B flat major, if I play A, oof, right? And then we resolve it. C, dissonant, resolution. Dissonant, resolution. Dissonant, dissonant, and then we're back to the top. So play with that first. I'm staying in the scale and just kind of playing around with it, hearing. And I'm kind of staying square right now, just to try it. And then try some out of the consonant notes with the chord and lean on those a little bit more. Then try less scalar movement, right? So instead of try Okay, now, once you get that mastered, which you never will, and crazy for, I mean, we could do that, but this is how you build up to that. So now you go, okay, how about in the context of a chord progression? So now we're going to go to 1, 4, 5. Okay, so now you're starting to get a little bored. You're like, I got this diatonic stuff. Now, every note is possible. But you're still going to try to frame it in the key. So now you're going to add in other notes, but then you're going to try to get and resolve them, right? So. Notice how I went back to one chord. Trenzo? Absolutely. And you have to be careful because if you do too many chromatics in a row, you start to sound like it's carnival music, which is not really the goal. So then you put that in a chord progression. And then you can really get off to the races, but you know, I would say that's beyond the scale of good taste. It's just a matter of just practicing, really. Speaking of good taste. That's when you don't read the notes. How's it going, everybody? Thanks, Trenzo. Hey, Adam, what's the hardest song you can play? That is always such a challenging question to answer because there's a big difference between, there's like multiple answers and they're all kind of not very interesting, to be honest. And that's because difficulty is a really hard thing to measure in music. You said you probably heard that World War II song. Actually, I thought it is only a post-Soviet famous song and was quite surprised to see a lot of the West actually know and like it. Yeah, thank the internet for that. I'm pretty sure somebody requested or something else. I definitely heard that at some point. So let's talk difficulty for a second. I kind of want to make a video about this. I feel like I already made a video about this, but I kind of want to make another video about this. Here's the thing, like, there are songs that are basically impossible because of the arrangement of the notes. Then there are songs that are really, 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 really hard because they're like this really intense knot of, yeah, Black MIDI. Then there's these songs that are this intense knot of musicality and technicality, hence list, right? I'd say most of the Hungarian Rhapsodies kind of make that list. Rachmaninoff, Piano Concerto number 3, Pretty sure it's number 3 is the really hard one. I'm gonna get crucified by all the classical people if I didn't get that right, but very, 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 very hard. I totally uploaded it and never actually put it as public. I will upload it and finish it. Thanks. Transcendental etudes, yeah, a lot of the etudes, absolutely. That stuff is extremely, extremely hard. Then there are pieces that sound easy and are hard because they are technically very challenging to pull off musical things. So, so that's da 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 da. Are you talking about this? Yeah, so like Claire de Lune's a good example. I think actually this one. That's actually a very hard song to actually make sound good. Specifically though, yeah, so that's Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Making that up on the spot. Up. Yeah, we could do a little bit of up theme. So sorry to basically dump all this on you, Adam. So in terms of answering your question in the most honest way possible, I would say the list Hungarian Rhapsody number 1 is my current piece that I can play. But in terms of like, I'd say the hardest piece that I've learned in terms of the amount of hours I spent to get the result that I got, it would be Schoenberg, Opus 19, I think, 12-tone thing. That one definitely. It's good. I like it. I gotta fix my piano before I play it again. That one is so much low register. I got some notes that aren't happy about it. I guess I could play it downstairs on the keyboard. This is a great example of diatonic dissonance, by the way.